So yeah, today the topic is how public speaking made me a better negotiator. When I first started freelancing, so I've been an Android developer for quite a while, I decided to leave my corporate job and be out on my own. I figured that if I just go and say, hey, I am amazing, hire me and give me lots of money, people are probably not convinced. So I essentially wanted to inject results into the search engine. So I figured the best way to do that is to give some talk. So when people look myself up, they type my name and then they will find all these talk and they will be like, oh, she's legit. I should give her lots of money to write my Android app. I'm very money driven, which is great for negotiation if you know what you want. So what I did was I went to my favorite search engine and I typed Android conferences and I added Bay Area because that's where I used to live. I submitted to one of the conferences called DevCon, and my talk was accepted. Yay! So I was super happy. And in the email that they sent me about the acceptance, they said, oh, thank you for submitting. We would love you to come have you talk, and we will pay you $400 towards your travel. And I was like, what? Like, that's a thing? Like, I don't have to restrict myself to where I live? Like, I can get money from the conference to travel? And so quickly I went back to the search engine and I started deleting the location because, hi, I can speak anywhere now because I just didn't realize. Because on the website, it didn't list that travel compensation is a thing. So that taught me kind of like one big lesson in negotiation, which is, yes, you go to the website for the conference and it may tell you, hi, if you come give a talk, we will give you a ticket to the conference. But what actually is happening is they are not showing all their cards. There's a hidden card, or two, or three, like things that they didn't tell you, but it's totally possible. And what I learned through this whole process is that there may be things that you want that you would not get unless you ask. So that's kind of lesson number one is ask. Well, I guess lesson number 0 is know what you want so that you can ask for things. I don't know about you, but before I started public speaking, the way I ask is this. I'm essentially begging, and I just blurt out all the reasons I think that they will need to justify my ask. So I'll be like, oh, please, like, send me, I will need your money because I'm an independent developer and I can't do this without that. And it has been very stressful to always need to justify why I want something. And throughout this process, I actually learned that that's a much better way to ask, and it's to frame your request. So let's say that I am going to this conference and they are showing me these cards, right? The same thing, if you give a talk, I'll give you a ticket. After that experience of knowing that they're hidden cards, I just always assume that they have what I want and it's just hidden from me. So I frame my request that way. So for instance, if it's about getting travel support, instead of saying, please give me money for plane and lodging, this is what I say. Thank you so much for inviting me to talk. Do I book a flight with your travel agent or you reimburse me afterwards? So I just frame it. I just assume that they're going to pay for my travel expense. And instead of asking if they are going to do that, I push that one question further. I assume that they're paying already, so I'm just like, do I get a reimbursement or does your travel agent book my flight for me? And that put the burden on them to then back up and say, well, actually, we don't pay. I mean, they often do. I mean, it's not like a magic trick that they will just forgot that they don't pay. But at least like that makes the ask very different. And I definitely have conferences that I think they reacted differently. Had I been asking, if the option was yes or no, like, do you pay? That's much easier for them to say no than, oh, wait, this is not even the question. So framing is a big deal. And by framing your question properly, you can push that envelope further. So I can't see my Next slide, so I'm going to come here. All right. So the next thing I want to tell you about is negotiation is not necessarily about pushing the envelope. It's not necessarily that I gain, they lose. A lot of the times you can get creative and get what you want without even having other people to make their situation worse. So 1 year I went to, I was accepted to speak at OSCON, which is like this big conference run by O'Reilly, and I used the same trick. I asked them, hey, thank you so much for letting me speak. Do you reimburse me, or I have to pay for? I have to use your travel agent? And they said, we'll reimburse you for your flight and 2 nights of hotel. And I was like, whoa, that was easy. Like, I just asked and they said that. But that conference actually is a 5-day conference. So 2 nights, it's kind of just enough to stay there for my own talk. If I want to go to the rest of the conference, I have to figure out how to pay for the other 2 nights. So that's how the situation is I think inside the box. Like, oh, okay, they give me a flight and 2 nights. But I figured if me and another speaker who also was told that they will get one round-trip flight and 2 nights, and we combine them, then we'll each take our flight, and then we can share the hotel room. I mean, assuming that you're okay with sharing hotel room. But that's like a creative way to make things work. So negotiation is not just, let me push this envelope so that they will step back and give me what they want. It's also thinking outside the box. So this scheme is all great, except, how do I find another speaker who probably don't even know that the conference does provide travel support? I went to Twitter, and what I did was I searched for the hashtag OSCON, and I see who was excitedly saying that, yay, I got accepted. And I didn't know Julia at that point, but I just cold DM her and say, hey, you're also speaking at OSCON. Would you like to split the hotel that is provided by the conference? And Julia was like, what? They give you a hotel? I was like, yes, indeed. So that's another thing about negotiation. Information is super important, and the more you share, the more you tend to be trusted by others to give you those inside information that is not out there, all those hidden cards. And conference speaking, to me, it's a very, very small circle. So the words tend to go around. And once you're in the speaker circle, you end up making friends that can tell you all these things. And the nice things about public speaking is that, at least for me, it's a very low risk situation for negotiation. Because if you're trying to negotiate a better offer, if you're trying to get a promotion, you're trying to reduce your work from full-time to part-time once you have your baby, your livelihood is on the line, right? You don't really feel comfortable pushing that envelope. But public speaking, giving a talk at a conference, what's the worst case situation? They said no, and you don't give a talk, which is what you have been doing all this time. I mean, that you're not giving talks. So it's not like I have had a job and I am going to be out of a job to pay for things. The risk is really low, so I was really using that situation to be creative and negotiate and try to push the envelope. So once again, you can think outside the box, you can combine forces, gather your information. And one other thing that I would really want to point out is that, yes, it's great to learn to push the envelope, but they may push back. And this is real. You need to learn to deal with rejections. This is what, in my head, the number one reason why a lot of people don't negotiate is they are afraid of rejection. They assume they wouldn't get what they want. And once again, public speaking is a great way to get that fear, overcome that fear. So let's say you are assuming that, hey, that hidden card, I bet, is travel. And they said, well, actually, we don't provide travel. Then what do? At some point, you need to be comfortable to just say no. Thank them and said, in that case, I won't be able to speak. And that's it. Again, a lot of the times it's about framing, so I probably would have been very apologetic in my previous life, I guess, when I have to say no, because I felt like when I submit to a talk and they accept, like that's a binding agreement, but actually didn't sign anything. It's perfectly okay to say, well, no, I would not speak. And you don't have to go further in. And that's one other thing that I've learned throughout this process is, you know, remember the slides when I was begging and like having this long argument of like why and how this is going to happen? You don't need that. Like that was actually stopping me for a lot of the times for asking what I want, is I'm just dreading to do all those explanations. But a lot of the times, I'm also like a conference organizer right now. If someone sent me a long paragraph versus someone just say, sorry, I can't come, like I feel exactly the same. I just think, oh, all right, this person couldn't come. Let me go through the wait list and find another person. It's not a big deal. Like if you say no, just keep it short, keep it polite. Like don't be just like, oh, I hate you, and drop the mic and run away. But you don't need to give an essay of reasons. Another thing that I really like using public speaking as an exercise to learn how to negotiate is that there are many, many opportunities, right? There are many conferences, many meetups. And I really like this tweet I saw. So she was making a goal of having 100 rejection letters, and she didn't end up thinking pretty much she wouldn't be able to do that because she got more acceptances than rejections. And this is a great way of framing it. Instead of hoping that you will get accepted by every single conference, start out thinking that my goal is to get rejected. This way, you are pushing that envelope. You are trying things that you would normally be afraid to try. And guess what? You will actually usually get accepted more than getting rejected. So part of the reason is, like I said, like saying no is also something that we need to learn, right? So it's also difficult on the other side of the table. When they have to say no to you, it's actually difficult. So be comfortable with the rejections on both sides, on both them rejecting you and you rejecting them. Actually, one of my friends told me that an even better way of framing that is not being rejected, but more like not being accepted. They're not actively saying that you're horrible. It's just there are only limited slots. So keep trying, keep pushing the envelope, think about what you want, and use this opportunity to find your voice. A lot of the times, we like to treat everything as static. If we see that, oh, okay, this conference opens at this time and this is the deadline and I will submit. Actually, if you email the conference organizer, well, maybe within a week after the CFP close and say, oh, I'm so sorry that I didn't catch the deadline on time. Here's my proposal. Is it okay if you put it in the system? A lot of the time they said, okay, don't be late next time. But again, you have to be the one to do it, right? You have to know that, okay, I am going to try this. No one's going to say, deadline is August 3rd, but actually August 10th. Like, no one's going to do that for you. Like, you need to try it. And then if you try enough time, well, A, you are more comfortable with pushing, and B, you kind of get to know where the real boundaries are, not just the one that is presented to you. And to be honest, this is how people get ahead. Like, you don't get ahead by following all the rules. You figure out where the cracks are and you push through. So use public speaking as an opportunity to negotiate and to find your voice and push those envelopes. Thank you.